What's up everybody, and welcome to the second video in my series dedicated to best ball strategy and taking down the $3.5 million best ball championship on draft.com. On Monday's video I talked about rules, playoffs, payout structure, and more. Today I'm going to be talking about pre-draft prep and figuring out what you can do before the draft even starts to maximize your edge and put yourself in the best possible position, the most advantageous position when going into these drafts. So everybody has their own process, but these tips should be universally helpful to any drafter. Note, if these videos seem a bit too much like a basic tutorial and not enough advanced strategy, if you're an advanced drafter, if you've done this tournament in the past and you don't really need to know the basics, do not worry. I'll be coming in with more in-depth topics the later into July we get and as we transition into August. But today we're going to be talking about basic tips for pre-draft prep. So one of the first things you want to do when joining any fantasy league is analyze the scoring settings and then figure out how that's going to impact the draft and how it's going to impact your total points at the end of the season, especially in a best ball league. So one of the things that you notice immediately looking at the $3.5 million best ball championship on draft is that it's a half-point PPR league. A lot of best ball players may be more familiar with Best Ball 10s, formerly My Fantasy League. If that's the site that you've primarily been drafting on up to this point, then those are full point PPR leagues. So the scoring is going to be different. And one of the most obvious ways is that catches are less valuable and touchdowns are more valuable. And as we know, especially in the NFL today, a lot of teams are passing, and then when they get down to the 10 and the 5, they are running the ball. So a lot of the times running backs are going to be scoring those touchdowns. And if you look specifically in 2018, the top 36 scorers, not including quarterbacks, we had 13 running backs, 19 wide receivers, and 4 tight ends in full point PPR. In half point PPR, we had 16 running backs, 17 wide receivers, and 3 tight ends. So once you're familiar... Picked a great time to mow your lawn, dude. So once you are familiar with the scoring settings and how it's going to impact specific player value and your own personal draft strategy, the next thing that you can do is utilize one of draft.com's best features, and that is going to be their pre-draft ranking system. So basically, you can go in and it will organize players based on their current ADPs in drafts, and then you can reorganize it based on how you'd like to take them, rank your own players. So there are several benefits to this, but the first one is that when you are in a draft and it is displaying the next available players, rather than it just going by ADP, it'll be going by your own personal ranking. So, if something happens, say you get, God forbid, auto-picked, it'll be going by your personal rankings, not by ADP, which is beneficial for several reasons. A, quarterbacks go way too high in ADP, so that'll allow you to avoid that if something does happen. Also, it lets you differentiate yourself, because I feel like a lot of people ignore this feature and they will just draft on ADP. Now, the same is true of a large field GPP as it is with this tournament. You're going to want to differentiate yourself. So more than any other draft, I would encourage using ADP as a light suggestion and more of a reference as to when you can get players that you value higher than other people. Don't use it as a system like, oh, I have to draft this player because this is his ADP. No, we're looking to differentiate our lineups and maximize our upside. So these players in the mid rounds that are just, sort of safe, steady guys, I'm moving them way down in my rankings, and I'm moving the upside guys higher, and I'm moving the players that I specifically want to target higher. As you maybe saw on that graphic, Saquon Barkley, not my 101. If I have the 101, I'm not taking Barkley. Okay, I'm not doing it. I'm going to take David Johnson and Zeke Elliott, and right off the bat, that should differentiate my lineups from other 101 drafters, because the consensus is take Barkley or take Christian McCaffrey. So that's just an example of something that I think every drafter should be trying to do. One thing that I can't recommend highly enough is using draft's low-stakes best ball leagues as sort of a mock draft and sort of as a way to get a good feel of how the drafts are going to go. Because, 30 seconds to make your pick in the best ball championship seems like a lot of time per pick, but really, it can go quick, especially if you're thinking a lot. So I use the $1 and $3 and $5 best ball drafts as sort of just ways to figure out, all right, when does the tier break? Where are the players that I value higher than everybody else going low? When should I take them, and when will I miss out on them if I decide to try and wait around, So I think doing these drafts is invaluable. For the price of one entry into the best ball championship, you could do 25 $1 drafts. And I think that would definitely increase the chance of each specific draft in the championship being more valuable, because you're going to be coming at it with more knowledge and more experience. So that is something that I would recommend. I'm always making slow draft best ball picks, just sort of gauging, as the season continues and as we get closer to week 1, what players are increasing in value. All right, was this guy going in round 10 last week and now he's going in round 8? All right, so that would be a time to adjust my rankings, that kind of thing. So I think that is a key aspect of preparation. All right, so the last thing that I want to leave you with is probably the most important, and this is a lesson that I've learned from playing DFS for the last few years, and that is going to be to manage your bankroll and know your investment ahead of time. So don't just start firing off entries into this thing without knowing how many times you plan to enter. Am I going to enter this tournament once? Am I going to do it 10 times, 50 times, 150 times? Because the investment is different, and the point that you need to hit to turn a profit is different based on that. It really is. So, as fun as these things are, and as much as I enjoy doing them, and as I'm sure a lot of other people enjoy doing the drafts, the end goal should still be to turn a profit, right? So you do need to know your investment, know your bankroll, and that will impact your draft strategy, or at least it should, in terms of player exposure, getting exposure to different stacks, and stuff like that. So I'll talk more about mass multi-entry GPP type strategy in a future video, but just know that you should be very cognizant of how much you plan to invest in this tournament and then how you can use that best. Alright guys, thanks for watching. This was the pre-draft preparation video. I will be back on Friday with another video where we will finally get into some in-draft things that you can do to maximize your upside. If you like what you saw, this video was presented by the DFS Dose Podcast, your fix of daily fantasy sports information, strategy, and analysis. Support us, follow the podcast. You could follow my personal Twitter right up there. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on Friday.